I can't even imagine.
Lo and behold, who shows up in Assistant U.S. Attorney Stegman's stead? Assistant U.S. Attorney Mark McKeon, the original prosecutor in the case that convicted me. Let me give you just a few words about this. Assistant U.S. Attorney McKeon, after convicted me, was then sent to The Hague to prosecute war criminals. Now, after my appeal was granted, he was sent back to the United States. Now, guess where Assistant U.S. Attorney McKeon is stationed?
I give up.
Well, he is now in charge of misdemeanors in Fresno, California. He was not brought back to Sacramento, but he now would travel to Sacramento each time we would have to appear before Judge Jensen. Now, doesn't that make sense? And the only thing he brought to the table was what happened in the first trial, which was overturned. And on the second trial, where I was acquitted of all charges. And guess whose side Judge Jensen took when he denied my certificate, saying that my acts were with willfulness? This, in fact, was overruled by Judge Levy, as Judge Levy denied the very same thing in the prosecution's motions in the second trial.
Do you think that your case is alone in what happened, or do you think that there are others out there that have been through the same thing?
I can go you one better. What are chances that two inmates who are bunkies in prison are both granted their appeal? Well, my bunkie, Earl Heltsley, who was convicted in Nevada twice and had served more time than I did, had our appeals heard on the same day in the same District Court of Appeals, and both appeals were granted. Reverse and remand. Both of his cases were exonerated. Earl didn't even have to go through a second trial, as the judge, Judge Reed of Reno, Nevada, threw out the case. Now, here I wish to say that here again the law was not followed. And had it been, I would have been aware of the law. After I was released, Earl and I stayed in contact. When he was to appear before the judge in Reno, Judge Reed, my wife and I went to see what would happen. What happened was that Earl was not to be recharged, as I would be. He was a free man. His judge did not grant or deny a certificate of innocence. Had he done so, I would have been prepared when I was given a retrial. Yet another federal judge and another federal attorney knew nothing, said nothing, did nothing. What a travesty. By the way, would you like to know how Earl is doing today? 8 years after winning his freedom, he lives in a room behind the donut shop that his mother owns. His mother, who spent all she had on getting her son freed. They live, as my wife and I do, barely scraping enough to live on from month to month.
So there are other cases.
Let me say this. If 1 to 3% of all prisoners are unjustly convicted and imprisoned, what are the chances that when they receive their reverse and remand and are then found not guilty, have they been given or denied a certificate? It would seem that prisoners are given their rights if violated, but innocent persons are passed over.
Have you tried writing or talking to any government officials?
No, of course. Try Congresswoman Doris Mitsui, Senator Barbara Boxer, Congresswoman Nancy Pelosi, the pardon attorney for President Obama, United States Attorney General Eric Holder, Chief Justice Garland Burrell, Federal Judge William B. Shub, Dean of Duke Law School and former Federal Judge David Levy, Nevada Judge Reed, Federal Attorney Glynis Cartledge, Federal Attorney J. Toney, Judge D. Lowell Jensen, the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, the State Bar of California, President Bush, President Obama, former United States Attorney Alberto Gonzales, United States Attorney of the Treasury, Henry Paulson, Office of the Comptroller of the Currency, John C. Dugan, Inspector General of the United States, Glenn A. Fine, Sacramento United States Attorney McGregor Scott, Sacramento Assistant U.S. Attorney John Giesler, U.S. Attorney Paul Sieve, U.S. Attorney John K. Vincent. The list goes on and on.
So you've exhausted all of our bureaucrats.
That's why we're doing this interview. I thought that by getting this information to those who were in a position to help, I could accomplish my goal. Remember the prisoners as if chained with them. Those who are mistreated, since you yourselves are in the body also. That's Hebrews 13. If it happened to Earl and myself, how many others will it or has it happened to? A copy of this DVD will be sent to every congressperson and U.S. senator, along with every influential newspaper, TV source, or any other source that I can find.
Is this just a federal problem?
Yes. If you are unjustly convicted and then found not guilty in state court, you are automatically compensated. Not so federally. And to add insult to injury, the United States signed a treaty called the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights. Let me read. Article 14:6. When a person has by a final decision been convicted of a criminal offense, and when subsequently his conviction has been reversed or has been pardoned on the ground that a new or newly discovered facts show conclusively that there has been a miscarriage of justice, the person who has suffered punishment as a result of such a conviction shall be compensated according to law, unless it is proved that the non-disclosure of the unknown fact in time is wholly or partly attributable to him. Under the Vienna Convention on the Law of Treaties, the United States is bound by the terms of the above-mentioned treaty. This treaty was ratified by the United States on June 8th, 1992.
Have you shown that to anyone?
Yes. I sent a letter to President Bush in 2004 and a copy to President Obama in 2010.
Any reply?
No.
I would suppose you have all the documents you told me about.
Yes, everything is documented. Some make for good reading, such as the one from the pardon attorney. I had asked that President Obama would sign a pardon in lieu of a certificate of innocence. Well, the pardon attorney advised me after writing back and forth for a long time that President Obama could not. And why? Because I was found not guilty, acquitted of all charges, but was denied the certificate at my third trial, which was not the court that acquitted me.
Do you feel that even though you had to go through a third trial and you were denied a certificate of innocence, that you can get through the rest of your life?
With God, I will get through it. Just as I got through 20 months in federal prison, just as I did losing all the real estate I had owned, just as I was able to keep my bookstore open for 11 years after being indicted and losing everything I owned, just as I get through every day knowing that everything I worked for my entire life is gone. I'm asking that the Congress and Senate set aside my denial of a certificate of innocence and allow me to appear before Judge Francis Allegra, even though he has thrown out my original complaint, because I do not have a certificate of innocence. That Congress and the Senate grant Earl Heltsley a certificate of innocence, that he may appear before the U.S. Court of Federal Claims. In short, I'm asking for justice. Thank you.
Thank you.